Okay, everybody, good morning. Today we'll talk about the skeleton. So, all of you know that human skeleton consists of 206 bones. And this is the human skeleton. We divide the skeleton into two parts. Axial part is this. Consists of the skull, thoracic case, and vertebral column or spine. Okay? So, skull, thoracic case, and vertebral column together from the axial skeleton. Appendicular skeleton consists of the upper limbs, came up again, and the lower limbs. So 4 limbs, 2 upper limbs, 2 lower limbs together from the appendicular skeleton. Okay? So today we'll talk about the bones of the axial skeleton. That means the bones of the skull, vertebral column, and the ribs. Axial skeleton consists of 80 bones, total 80 bones. Now, first the skull. This is the skull, and the bones of the skull is grouped into, the bones of the skull are grouped into 2, cranial bones and facial bones. Cranial bones form a cavity. They join together to form a cavity called the cranial cavity, in which the brain is located. So these are the cranial bones around the brain. Make sense? Around your brain, the bones are the cranial bones. There are total 8 cranial bones. How many? 8. And facial bones are the bones that form the framework of the face. And there are 14 facial bones. Okay? How many? 14. 1, 4. Okay? 14. So 8 cranial, 14 facial bones together form the skull. Okay? Now, I have already mentioned that cranial bones are located around the what? Around the brain, right? So, protecting the brain, right, is the most important function of the cranial bones. Make sense? Protection. Facial bones provide attachment to the facial muscles. A number of small muscles are attached to the facial bones. Now, facial bones form few cavities. For example, you see here orbital cavities for the eyeballs, nasal cavity for the nose, oral cavity, which is mouth. So, few important cavities are formed by the facial bones. And important sensory organs. What are the sensory organs? Your eyes, your nose, and your tongue. Yeah, you are right too. Yeah. So those important sensory organs are protected, right, by the facial bones. Make sense? Facial bones provide openings like nasal cavity, oral cavity, ear cavity. Those important openings are also given by the facial bones. As I have mentioned, that some small muscles are attached to the facial bones. Okay, and those muscles help in mastication, chewing the food, right? Speaking. By the movement of the mandible, this facial bone is very important. This is only facial bone which moves. Okay? So, by the movement of the mandible, you chew the food, you produce speech when you talk. So, those are the functions of facial bones. Okay? Here, you see from the side, pituitary bones you can see from the side, and facial bones, right? So like this. So you see here the facial bones are, the cranial bones are attached to each other by these joints. You see these lines? These are called sutures. So sutures are the joints of the cranial bones. Okay? We'll talk about the sutures. Here from the side, you can see the squamous suture, this one, the coronal suture this way, and sagittal suture this way. Okay? So those are some sutures you can see from the side. And these are the facial bones. Now, how many cranial bones you have, I mentioned? 8. So what are those 8 cranial bones? We have one frontal, this one, that forms the forehead area. Then 2 parietal bones behind the frontal. So this is one, this is another. And they are joined by the sagittal suture here. Okay. Then one occipital bone is in the back. So one frontal, 2 parietals, one occipital, and below the parietals, you have temporal, 2 temporals near the ear, around the ear temple. So we got 6, and 2 other bones form the floor of the cranial cavity this way. One is called sphenoid, and another is called ethmoid. Okay, so those are 8 cranial bones. They cover the brain and protect the brain. If you look from the front, you can see most of the facial bones and some cranial bones. For example, frontal bone is here. You can see the entire frontal bone. Okay. Parietal bones are these 2. You can see part of the parietal bones. You can see part of temporal bones, right? But you don't see the occipital because it is in the back, and you don't see most part of the cranial floor. That means sphenoid and ethmoid. Now, if you see the front of the face, which bones you can see here? Lower jaw. This is called the mandible. Okay, this is the only bone of the skull that we can move freely. So mandible forms the lower jaw. Upper jaw is formed by 2 maxillary bones. Remember, 2 maxillary bones together form the maxilla. So this is here one maxillary bone, this is another maxillary bone, and they join together, fuse together to form the maxilla. So this whole thing is the maxilla, and this is one maxillary bone, this is another maxillary bone. Okay. Then you have cheekbones. You see here the prominence of cheek. These bones are called the zygomatic bones. Okay, so again, mandible, 2 maxillary bones, 2 zygomatic bones. Okay, then 2 nasal bones are here. They join together to form the bridge of the nose. So 2 nasal bones form the nose. Then behind the nasal bones, you have 2 lacrimal bones, tiny bones called lacrimal. You see the green color behind the nose, lacrimal bones. Okay. Inside the nasal cavity, if you look through, there are nasal conchae, superior, middle, inferior. three nasal concha. Some people say concha, CHONCHA. Then you have vomer. Vomer is here, the lower part of the nasal cavity, vomer. Okay, so I'm repeating again. Those bones you can see: mandible, two maxillary bones, two zygomatic bones, two nasal bones, then two lacrimal bones, nasal concha, and vomer. Those are the bones you can see in the face. Through the orbital cavity or fossa, you can see part of sphenoid. Only a small part of sphenoid. You look at the picture, the red color through the orbital fossa. Only a small part, because most part is in the floor of the cranial cavity. Okay, and a part of ethmoid you can see in the upper part of the nose. Okay, okay. So those are some bones that you can see from the front. Now the sutures. Sutures articulate or join the cranial bones, and I have already mentioned coronal suture is this way here. So you can see that coronal suture articulates the frontal and parietal. Frontal in the front and parietal in the back. The sagittal suture is here. That means it articulates two parietal bones together. Here, sagittal. Then squamous is here. Squamous suture articulates, you see, parietal above and temporal below. So parietal and temporal are articulated by the squamous. Then lambdoid suture, you see here, very clearly you can see. This is the lambdoid suture that articulates occipital and parietal. Okay? So those are important sutures in the skull. Just if you know those four, it will be okay. Here you can see the coronal suture. You can see the squamous suture. You see the lambdoid suture. Sagittal suture you don't see from the side because sagittal suture is here. Right? So you won't see on the side. Other three you can see. Squamous you can see the full of it, the whole squamous, part of coronal, part of lambdoid. Okay. This is the back of the skull. So if you see the back of the skull, these are the parietal bones, right? And this is the occipital bone. This is the lambdoid suture here. Okay. Now in the occipital bone, you see here, look carefully, there are some lines like this. These are called nuchal lines. These are for the attachment of the neck muscles, posterior neck muscles. They go like this and get attached to these lines. Okay? So nuchal lines, superior, inferior, nuchal lines. It is there, you see in the picture. And there is a elevated structure here. You see, if you touch it, you can feel this elevation here, tiny, is called external occipital protuberance. External means outside, and protuberance is an elevation. Okay, so external on the occipital bone. Okay, external occipital protuberance and superior inferior nuchal lines. When you see the bones in the left part, you must see those structures. Okay, so just you will be able to see in the real bones. This is the bottom of the skull. You are looking from the bottom. Now, a number of bones you can see in the bottom of the skull. You can see the occipital in the back, right? In the occipital bone, here you again see those nuchal lines, superior inferior nuchal lines. You see the external occipital protuberance. Look at the bottom part of this picture. You see the nuchal lines, you see the external occipital protuberance. Another another important thing in the occipital bone is that large opening that is called the foramen magnum. Make sense? Foramen means opening, magnum means big. So big foramen in the occipital bone for the spinal cord to come out from the brain. Make sense? So that is the occipital. You see two temporal bones, yellow color, and you see the sphenoid. You must remember I mentioned that sphenoid forms the floor of the skull. So here you can see most part of the sphenoid, the red colored one. Sphenoid bone has a shape like a butterfly or a flying bat. If you see the sphenoid, it looks like flying bat or butterfly. Why? Because it has wings, wing-like structures. Okay, we'll talk about that later. That's not. Then another thing you see here, which is the hard palate. You know, this is the palate. If you put your finger inside your mouth and move up, you'll touch the palate. You can touch your palate through with your tongue. If you move the tongue up, you will touch the palate. So this is the palate. Okay. Now, this palate is formed by, you see, two bones. Anterior 2/3 part, which is shown by that not blue like cyan color. That 2/3 is by the maxillary bone, and posterior 1/3 is by the palatine bone. So look at the top left, hard palate. This is the hard palate and formed by two bones. Anterior 2/3 by maxillary bone and posterior 1/3 by the palatine bone. Okay, and another thing you see here, a number of holes or openings. Some are small, some are larger. Yes.
Is the palatine bone considered two bones or just one?
Palatine bone is one. Okay. So if you see the base of the skull again, you see a number of holes. The largest one I have already mentioned in the occipital bone, which is called what? The foramen magnum. Right? Then palatine bone most likely two. Yeah, here, because they are connected by suture. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, two palatine bones. You see some small foramen or opening. Just know that some of those are for the nerves, some of those are for the blood vessels. Because you know that nerves come out from the brain, right? Many nerves come out from the brain. So some of those openings or foramen are for the nerves to get out, and blood vessels, right, enter into the brain. Blood vessels must go to the brain, right? So some of those foramen are for the blood vessels to enter into the brain. So that's why you see a number of openings. Now we'll see a couple of cranial bones and how they look like. Okay, so this is a temporal bone. This part I'm drawing, showing my finger. This is the temporal bone. You see the suture. Okay. Temporal bone has two parts. The upper portion is like a flat bone, nothing else. So you see here, this is the upper portion, which is a flat piece of bone. Okay. That is called the squamous part or squamous region. Lower part has a number of structures. You see, a number of structures are in the lower part. Okay, so we'll see what are those structures in the lower part of the temporal bone. There are three processes. Let's three processes. You see here, it makes sense. You see here, this process is sticking out from the temporal bone and going towards the zygomatic bone. You know this is the zygomatic bone, right? Cheekbone. So that's why this process is called the zygomatic process of temporal bone. Make sense? Because it is a part of the temporal bone. So zygomatic process of temporal bone is going to the zygomatic bone. Make sense? Going towards the zygomatic. This is another process. You see, you can actually feel it behind your ear if you touch. It's kind of elevation, right? That bony part. That is the mastoid process. Okay, so this is the mastoid process that you feel here. Then a very sharp pointed process is here. You see this one, very pointed. That is called the styloid process. So three processes: zygomatic, mastoid, which is blunt and round, and very sharp pointed. That is the styloid process. Okay. So those are three processes. Sometimes if you get ear infection, you'll see if you go to your doctor, the doctor pulls the ear lobule like this and presses on the mastoid process, because sometimes pus accumulates, fluid, infected fluid accumulates inside the mastoid process. Make sense? So that can cause pain. So those are three processes. There is a opening here, you see, that is called the external acoustic meatus. This opening for the ear. External acoustic meatus. So those are the important parts. There is a fossa here that is called the mandibular fossa. Why? You see, these things are pretty easy if you know. This is mandible and it is going here. You see, mandible goes there. Okay? So that's why this is called the mandibular fossa. Make sense? Mandibular fossa is the depression like this. The mandible closes like this. Okay? So just know that those are the important parts of the temporal bone. This is the sphenoid. Sphenoid bone looks like what? Butterfly or bat, flying bat, right? That I mentioned a few minutes ago. So if you see a sphenoid bone, it is like here in the middle part of the floor of the skull or cranial cavity here. And in the sphenoid, you have wings, right? That's why it looks like flying bat, wings. How many wings? 4. That means 2 pairs, right? One pair is greater wings and another pair lesser wings. Make sense? So 2 big wings are called what? Greater wings, right? And 2 smaller wings are lesser wings. Make sense? And a body in the middle. So you see the sphenoid bone, body in the middle, and 2 greater wings and 2 lesser wings. These are lesser wings, you see. This is one, this is another. These are greater wings. Okay, this is one, and this is the body. Now, in the top of the body, you see here, in the upper surface of the body, there is a fossa like this. When you see the skull, you must see that. This fossa is called the hypophyseal fossa. Now, remember, pituitary gland, you remember the master gland? Pituitary gland is also called hypophysis. Another name of pituitary gland is what? Hypophysis. So, this fossa is for the pituitary gland. Pituitary gland sits in it, rests on it. Okay? So that's why this fossa is called hypophyseal fossa. Make sense? Fossa for the pituitary gland. Hypophyseal fossa, very important gland. So you must No, that hypophyseal fossa for the pituitary gland on the sphenoid, body of the sphenoid. There are a couple of foramen or opening in the sphenoid bone. You see, in the back part of the greater wing, there are oval shaped foramen. Very nice, oval. Here. When you see the skull, you must see. And easy to remember because the shape is oval. Oval foramen. Below the lesser wings, you have passages like this. Those are for the optic nerves. You know optic nerve? From the eye, go to the brain. So optic nerves. That's why those are called optic canal. You see below the lesser wings, you have optic canals. So just remember, you need to identify those openings. And easy actually, not very difficult. Oval shape, that's why oval foramen. And under the lesser wing, from the eye, the optic nerves enter into the brain. That's why those are called optic canals. Then, ethmoid bone. Ethmoid bone, most part of it is hidden. That's why difficult to see in the skull from outside. This is the shape of, or this is how the ethmoid bone looks like. So, ethmoid bone has a middle part and two lateral masses like this. So, this is the middle portion and two lateral masses. So, lateral mass. This is one, this is another, and this is the middle portion. Okay. Now, in the lateral masses, you have many sinuses or air cells. Sinuses are air cells or air cavities. So, sinuses called ethmoidal sinuses, makes sense, on the ethmoid bone, and or air cells. Air cells, okay. In the middle portion, you have an extended part that is going downwards. You see this one? This is called perpendicular because it is going like this inside the nose, nasal cavity. So that's the perpendicular plate of ethmoid. Makes sense? Perpendicular plate. That actually forms part of nasal septum because this is the nasal cavity here. So upper part is separated by this perpendicular plate. Okay, and a small part is going upwards like this. That is called crista galli. Okay, crista galli. So you see the middle portion part is going upwards. That is crista galli. The plate is going downwards. That is dividing the upper part of nasal cavity. That is called the perpendicular plate of ethmoid. And two lateral masses contain what? Air sinuses, right? Or air cells. Is it clear? Okay. So that's the ethmoid bone. You see, you can see most part of sphenoid, the red color, in the middle of the floor of the cranial cavity, but only a small part of the ethmoid. Only because you are looking from the top, right? Above. So only you see a little part of the ethmoid. What do you see in the middle? You see the crista galli. This is the ethmoid bone. Only a small part you can see. This is the crista galli that I showed you here, going upwards, the tiny piece of here you see in both sides of Kistagali you have a plate of bone that is called cribriform plate. Cribriform plate. And in cribriform plate you have many tiny holes like this. It's like a filter. Many tiny holes. And these are called olfactory foramina. Olfactory foramina. Foramina is actually, the meaning is same as foramen. If you see the hole is big, little bit bigger, that is foramen. If it is very tiny, narrow, that is foramina. So it's like baby foramen. Okay. So this is Kistagali, and both sides, you look at the picture too, you have cribriform plate that contains many olfactory foramina. Why there are many olfactory foramina? Because olfactory nerve fibers from nose, olfaction means smell, you know that, right? Olfactory, olfaction, smell. So from the nose, many nerve fibers pass through olfactory foramina and go to the brain from the nose. So that's why you have so many tiny holes. The nerve fibers, olfactory nerve fibers from the nose go to the belly and they pass through the cribriform plate of ethmoid. That's why you have those tiny holes, and they are called olfactory foramina. Okay, so those are the cranial bones. Now we'll see the facial bones. How many facial bones? Anybody? It's allowed 40, right? So I have already mentioned that one mandible, lower jaw, two maxillary bones together form the maxilla or upper jaw, two zygomatic bones or cheekbones, right? Two nasal bones, two lacrimal bones. Also, you have palatine bones, two palatine bones. You must remember a few minutes ago, right? You asked about that. So, palatine bones form what? Part of what? Heart palate, right? That's why it is called palatine. It forms part of what? Heart palate. Roof of the mouth. One humor I mentioned already here. The lower part of the nose. Plough-shaped hole and nasal concave. So those are the facial bones. Mandible is the only freely movable bone of the skull. So only this bone moves it, not other bones are fixed. And this bone articulates with the temporal bone here. I also mentioned that. This is called temporomandibular joint. Joints I mentioned before that are named after the bones in most of the cases, right? So this joint is called what? Temporomandibular joint. Make sense? Temporal bone and mandible. Temporal, we usually use an O to join. Temporomandibular. Make sense? Now, the mandible moves at that joint. Temporomandibular. Sometimes you probably have heard the condition called locked jaw. If you open the mouth, it can't close it. It stays open, right? It's difficult to close. It gets locked there at this joint. In tetanus, it's a clinical condition where the muscles get very stiff, that can happen. If you see a mandible, it has a body. This part is called the body of the mandible, and ramus, two ramus. Now, if you look from the side, look at this. It looks like your arm. This is the arm, and this is the forearm. So, this is the arm, this is the forearm. And are attached. This is called alveolar margin. Alveolar margin is the area where the lower teeth articulate with mandible. So this is alveolar margin. Now, you see in the ramus there are two structures in the upper part of the ramus, right? Two structures are separated by a notch. Notch is an U-shaped area I mentioned before. If you see U-shaped area like this on a bone, usually we say what? Notch. Make sense? So here you see U-shaped area, right? So that is a notch. Mandibular notch. You see very easy. Mandibular notch, notch on the mandible. Behind the mandibular notch, this structure is called the mandibular condyle. This one, mandibular condyle. This one forms the temporomandibular joint. Goes here. Mandibular condyle, and this is called coronoid process. Coronoid process. Okay. So those are the structures in the ramus. You have a notch, and behind the notch you have the mandibular condyle here, and in the front you have the coronoid process. Another thing, this bone has two pairs of foramen. Here you see, if you look carefully, this is one, this side, this is here one. This area, anybody remember what's the name of this area, anatomical name? Chin area, mental. Remember that? This is buccal, this is mental. Remember that? So these foramen are called mental foramen. So if you know one, then that makes another thing easy, right? If you don't know this is called mental area, then it's difficult, right? But if you know this area is called what? Mental area, right? So those foramen are called what? Mental foramen, right? Foramen are the openings or holes. Now, in the inner surface of the ramus, in the inner part, if you look from inside, you have, you see here, I can show you here, the inner surface of the ramus. You have two more holes. Those are called the mandibular foramen. So two mental foramen and two mandibular foramen. Okay? So those are the openings in this bone. So just know that this is the only what? Movable bone, right, of the skull. And it joins with the temporal bone at temporal mandibular joint, or TMJ. We often use the term temporal mandibular joint, TMJ. And it has a body, two ramus, two pairs of foramen, mental foramen and mandibular foramen. In the upper part of ramus, you have a notch called mandibular notch, right? And behind the mandibular notch, you have the condyle, and in the front, you have coronoid process. And the alveolar margin is the area where the teeth articulate with the bone. Maxillary bones. Two maxillary bones here. I mentioned before, few times, join to form the maxilla. So maxilla is one, but formed by two maxillary bones. They fuse here. And maxillary bones or maxilla is called the keystone bones. So maxillary bones are called keystone bones. Why? Because you see here, if you look at the face, entire face, this bone is sitting in the middle, right? Sitting in the center. And all facial bones, except the mandible. Mandible is only attached to the temporal bone, right? But all other facial bones are attached to the maxilla. So basically maxilla is sitting in the middle and holding all the bones, other bones, right? So that's why all the other bones except mandible. So that's why the maxillary bones are called keystone bones. This is one maxilla. First, you see the upper teeth. Here, upper teeth are attached to the maxilla, and again the area is called alveolar margin. So, where the upper teeth are attached, that area is called alveolar margin. So, we can say this is the alveolar margin of mandible, this is the alveolar margin of maxilla. Okay? Simple. Inside the maxilla, you have a big cavity. If you see inside this maxillary bone, you have a big cavity that is called maxillary sinus. Maxillary sinus is the cavity, you know that. And sinus contains what? Air. Okay. So, air cavity. This is the largest one in the body, in the skeleton. And you know, sinusitis, we know, is the inflammation of the sinus. So, if this is maxilla, see, this is maxilla, this is the cavity, maxillary sinus, inside the maxilla, and in the wall you have mucosal lining, and inside has air. So large cavity, air-filled cavity inside the maxillary bone, that is the maxillary sinus. But in the wall you have mucosal lining, and sometimes infection can, this layer can be infected, and if that happens, that is called sinusitis. Sinusitis, inflammation of the sinus due to infection in the wall of the sinus. And when that happens, sinusitis, fluid is secreted here from the mucosal layer, and that fluid now fills that cavity. Make sense? Normally, air is located inside it, right? The sinus, in healthy sinus, right? If inflammation and infection occurs, then fluid is secreted and fills that cavity. And you know, microorganisms can grow there. And if it stays for a long time, that fluid there, right, it becomes more and more infected. Okay? So that causes pain, right? And all other complications of sinusitis. So easy way is you use antibiotic to kill the microorganisms, antihistamine to decrease the secretion. If that doesn't occur, you can drain the fluid out, then use the medicines. Okay? So that is the sinus and the inflammation of it. Anyway, so inside the maxillary bone, you have the largest sinus called the maxillary sinus. Then you have a couple of processes in this bone. You see here, this is the maxilla, and this part is sticking out and going to the zygomatic bone, this part. And that's why this is called the zygomatic process of maxilla. This is the zygomatic process of temporal bone, you have seen that before, and this is the zygomatic process of the maxillary bone or maxilla. Because it's going to the zygomatic bone. And now here, although you won't be able to see, just know that from the maxilla, this is the maxilla, the piece of bone is going towards the frontal bone, to the frontal bone. You know this is frontal, right? So that's why it is called what? Which process? What do you think? It is going to frontal bone, so its name is frontal process, right? This part is going where? To the zygomatic bone. That's why it is called zygomatic process. Make sense? This part is going to the frontal bone, that's why this is called the frontal process. Okay? So if you know where it is going, right? That process is going where? That is the name of the process. Make sense? So you need to know the names of the bones and their parts. Okay, zygomatic bones are also called cheekbones. Here, the prominence of your cheek is given by the zygomatic bone here. And this is the zygomatic bone, you know that. Now if you look carefully, you see this bone is forming lateral and inferior border of the orbital margin of fossa. So that's why it says inferolateral margin of orbit. This is the orbit, okay? So lateral, this is lateral, and this is inferior. So inferior and lateral of the orbit. Nasal bones. Two nasal bones